Hey guys, welcome to my first pregnancy update. As you can probably tell from the title of this video, and if you follow me on Instagram, I am currently 16 weeks pregnant with my first baby and I'm so excited. I still can't quite believe that it's happening and I'm growing a baby, but anyway, let's get into it because I just have so much to share and I don't even know where to begin, but I just wanted to go a little bit over, us finding out and, my first trimester, how that went, the symptoms, and then, how I'm feeling now and a little bit of an update about, what's been going on for all these months where I kind of disappeared a little bit and wasn't really much on social or anywhere really, and kind of completely checked out. So as you may know, we spent 3 months in France this summer. My parents and Michael's parents are down there, and we just decided we wanted to spend the summer over there. We found out we were pregnant in early August and we were just absolutely delighted. I mean, it's kind of like a completely surreal thing to just... Doesn't really matter if how long you've been wanting this, and it's just like seeing those 2 lines on the test is just the most magical feeling ever, and I will just never forget it. I'll never forget the day we both woke up and just did a test together, and it was just very special. We found out pretty early on. I think I was 4 weeks and a day or something. I think I told myself, we had been trying for a couple of months, and I told myself basically that I would wait until I was over, a day over my period being due, just because I just knowing from the past, like trying to test beforehand was just, for me mentally, it was just like too much. Michael forced me to wait until, at least 1 day over the day where my period was due. And that's what we did. And, the test basically just came up positive, like within seconds. I hadn't even waited to wait, the 3 minutes that they tell you to wait. Basically, as like before I even put it down, like I could see another line and I just started freaking out. It was just surreal, completely surreal, and it was very magical. And that morning I basically couldn't really wait and I had to tell my sister. So it was her birthday a few days after that, and so I basically went into her room, gently woke her up and told her that I had an early birthday present in the garden for her. and I took her out. She was half asleep and I told her and showed her the test and everything, and she just freaked out and just started screaming and jumping up and down, and it was just really sweet. And she knew, I tell her everything, so she knew, it wasn't a total surprise, but yeah, she was so delighted. And after that, I basically just called my best friend Freya pretty much straight away as well. And it was just so nice. I just had to, it felt like I needed to share with, we didn't share with many people. It was just basically at first I just shared it with my sister and my best friend, and it just made it feel more real, just to be like, oh my gosh, I am pregnant, like what even is happening? And yeah, so that was basically the first few days, and at that point I felt totally normal and fine. I had like some cramps, which before I knew I was pregnant, I thought, my period's coming, is pretty normal, pretty standard. But looking back, I'm pretty sure that was like implantation cramps type of things. So I felt pretty normal apart from that, and I think the cramps kind of subsided within a few days after we found out. And then I felt pretty normal and fine, which was great at first because it was easy to just not tell people, and we didn't really want to tell everyone, you know, around us straight away. Until week 6 hit and I started feeling pretty sick, and it was really hot. Actually, it was kind of like one of the hottest weeks we had as well. It was like 40 degrees or something, and I was just starting to feel really tired during the day, just like this complete exhaustion where like I had to take a nap. I had to just lie down, and I would just like think, oh, I'm just gonna lie down for 20 minutes and just come back, and you know, I would wake up 3 hours later just having like slept like a log, like not even realizing. It was the weirdest thing. And at first it was kind of the exhaustion was a big thing, and I just felt quite tired during the day. But apart from that, I could eat normally. I was, you know, feeling all right. And then slowly the nausea started creeping in pretty much that same week as well. And along the nausea came the food aversions, which were really fun. And also just like real sensitivity to smell. So I feel like I'm like basically just the classic, you know, the classic first trimester symptoms. Like, I think, you know, most women probably have had those as well. And if you do, and if you are going through this at the moment, you know how much of a pain it is. I mean, I was basically, I think the food aversions were probably the weirdest for me, and obviously the nausea was, you know, hit me pretty hard, but it wasn't, you know, I mean, I feel pretty lucky I wasn't throwing up or anything like that, but it was just pretty constant, and there wasn't really much of a break. So it was, at first it was pretty much like all day, and I would feel it would be much worse if I was hungry, which I, you know, within a few days figured out I needed to eat more consistently. But then the eating was a problem because I just had so many food aversions. I basically, you know, everyone talks about having so many cravings and wanting to eat weird foods. I basically had the opposite, where I just didn't want to eat anything. Nothing sounded appealing. I basically just wanted to live off beige foods, anything with like a strong smell, a strong taste, or pretty much like even colors. I couldn't even think about these foods. Like if you mentioned the word salad or any kind of vegetable, I'd had to like concentrate hard to like get it out of my mind. It's crazy. I didn't even think that was possible, that my body and my hormones would actually kind of like take over that aspect of me, which is just crazy. And so at first that was difficult. I would say that was probably the hardest thing to deal with, because the nausea was one thing, but eventually I could kind of manage it with, you know, eating more regularly, making sure I'm hydrated, but it was just the fact that the eating was problematic, which made it worse, because then, you know, it was just basically a vicious circle of like, I didn't know what to eat and I didn't want to eat, and not eating made me more nauseous. It was just like, it just didn't stop. So that was kind of between week 6 and I would say week 10 were probably my, you know, worst weeks. I mean, it was, looking back, it's, you know, I mean, I was absolutely delighted to be pregnant, and I would obviously go through it, you know, 1,000 times over. But I feel like, you know, there's a lot of stigma about, you know, sharing the ups and downs of that first trimester, and I think a lot of people don't really share. I think there's a lot of it feels quite taboo, and, you know, it's hush hush and don't talk about it, and because you don't want to sound ungrateful, and you want to, you know, respect everyone's experiences and journeys, but you know, I just feel like I also felt like I wish I had been able to hear more of these stories and hear more about other people's first trimesters, and because it felt quite lonely at times. It was, even though I was very much not lonely at all and had, my beautiful family and, my beautiful fiance just looking after me like a queen, and basically Michael cooked for me and was answering all my needs for like 3 months straight, and he was just an absolute angel. But I couldn't have done it without him, because I literally couldn't even, like, the food sensitivity, the smell sensitivity was so strong that I couldn't even enter the kitchen. I couldn't even make myself anything. It was just like, and around meal times, like I had to leave the kitchen, I had to leave the house. It was that bad. So that was really fun for everyone. But yeah, so I just wanted to be honest with how I felt, and it did feel pretty lonely, and it was, there were days where I just was like, oh my gosh, this is never ending. And because there really isn't, that this is normal, and that it will pass, but you don't know how long exactly. You don't, I haven't gone through pregnancy before, and so I don't have an experience of how, my body's dealing with this. And you hear people who go through it the whole pregnancy, and so your mind just plays tricks with you. And and everyone was telling me, you'll wait, like the second trimester will come along, and suddenly everything will disappear and you'll feel like 100%. And they were right, but at the time it really felt like every day was just dragging on, and it was just, I was trying to, like, look at the weeks and just, okay, like we hit another week and another week, and amongst all of that, there's also the stress and the worries of the first trimester, of first trimester being quite fragile, and not wanting to get your hopes up too much, and it's just really, I think, like, it's a lot to process, and as much as I was trying to stay positive and just looking at the bright side, and I felt excited, but that it was also, amongst that were feelings of, like, feeling pretty down about it. There was a lot of crying. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of hormones that were not helping that, but making me feel very emotional. But yeah, so that was kind of, and I shared more about this in more details in a blog post that I've just that has just gone live. So if you want to check it out, it's I'll put the link in the description below. But yeah, so that was pretty much kind of like the gist of my first trimester, and week 6 to 10 were a little bit, pretty much all day feeling a bit like that. I had better days, of course, and then once the week 10 hit, the nausea subsided a little bit during the day, and it was worse at night for me. In the evening was kind of my worst time. Maybe it was feeling more tired, or just feeling really hungry for that last meal, and that making it worse. I don't know, but for me, like, it would hit basically like 7-8 p.m. and I would just be gone. Like, I had to really eat quite early, and just go to bed really early, and it was just like, it didn't matter what I did. I just felt pretty rubbish during these few hours, until I went to bed. And then luckily that was one really good aspect, was that I could sleep really well, and naps or during the night I managed to sleep pretty well, which was really good. And I feel very lucky about that, because I've heard it's not the case for everyone. So yeah, so that was probably pretty much like week 10 to week 13. And when week 13 hit, it was basically just, it didn't just suddenly go away, but pretty much, I mean, within a few days I felt like a drastic change and felt much better. And as the weeks go on, I feel much more energy, and all these like weird symptoms, food aversions, smell and nausea, have pretty much completely gone, which is really good and such a relief. And I feel much more kind of a lot less overwhelmed by all of that, and feeling, you know, a lot more excited and wanting to just like learn and read more and, you know, just really throw myself into it. So yeah, it's been a really magical few weeks of being in my second trimester. One thing I didn't mention early on in the early weeks, you know, with the worries of, you know, like the first trimester, we decided basically I decided that I really wanted to have an early scan. So we had a scan at 8 weeks, a private scan in France, and that really helped to kind of like, you know, settle my anxieties a little bit and make me feel a lot more calm that everything was going the right way, and everything was going well, and baby was looking, you know, like, you know, hearing the heartbeat was just such a relief and just like such a magical sound, like you just wouldn't believe. It was just, I will never forget that first scan. It was, you know, even though it's like a tiny little bean and you can pretty much not see anything, it doesn't really look like any, you know, not a baby, but it looks like a little bean, and a little flickering heartbeat, and it's just like the most beautiful thing. And yeah, that really helped, because I mean, it's obviously very personal, but I just really didn't, it felt like, whoa, you know, 12 weeks to go without having any kind of real reassurance, apart from, you know, all the external symptoms, which, you know, obviously mine were pretty strong. So I felt like, okay, things are probably going the right way, but still, you just don't know. So that was a real help. And then we had our 12-week scan, which we had a little bit later once we had come back to the UK. And sadly, Michael couldn't come to that one because they changed the rules and stuff because of COVID. And so yeah, so that was, I mean, it was really magical, and that's why we got this little picture, which is just so magical, and just like actually looks like a baby, if you can believe it, and just pretty surreal. I think this whole experience, I just felt like, and I still feel a little bit like that, I think, like until I'm gonna start to feel more, you know, feel the kicks and feel the baby move. Sometimes it's still, you know, at the moment I feel pretty normal, so it feels, you know, I just have to remind myself, oh no, you're pregnant. I wanted to touch on a couple of things that helped me a little bit, even though, you know, throughout all these weeks I didn't find the magical remedy of, you know, letting go of nausea and food aversions. But one thing that seemed to be helping a little bit, and that what made more of an effect, was these acupressure bracelets. They're basically, they have these little pressure points, and you have to place them on a specific point on your wrist. And these are used for, you know, travel sickness and car sickness. And they're meant to really help as well with nausea in pregnancy. And they did actually, for me, I did feel some sort of relief. And there were days, I think, once when I used this pretty consistently, where I did feel like, you know, there was definitely a change. And there was, you know, a few days once I started using these where I felt, you know, the nausea was pretty mild during the day. But I wasn't very good at using them all the time, and, you know, and it didn't make it dramatic change. So, you know, maybe something to try if you are feeling like this at the moment. You know, I tried all the remedies like ginger and everything between, but really it was, you know, nothing really just made a major difference. I think the things that helped the most were really just trying to keep hydrated, drinking lots of water, and really just making sure I really made sure to eat very regularly. Like every few hours I just had something to eat, to just never hit that point where I was just like ravenous, and, you know, and then the nausea would hit me like a ton of bricks, and I just, you know, I was like, oh my God, I need to eat something now. And I just, you know, it just made it so much worse. So yeah, being consistent with eating and just always carrying snacks everywhere I went, that really helped. and just, you know, being outdoors and trying to move my body. I mean, I really just basically couldn't do very much. I was basically like horizontal a lot of the time, and you know, and I didn't really do any workouts or anything like that. I tried to go on little walks and tried to get some fresh air, and that did help. And you know, just being outdoors and trying to get my mind off it. Like I was, you know, I think there were days where I would just be on my phone a lot, but just like trying to, you know, which wasn't particularly great, but it was a way for me. I was just trying to find ways for, you know, to just kind of let go of like my brain just focusing on that feeling of feeling sick and not like myself. So, you know, I think like reading my book and going outside for a walk, going for a swim, spending time with my loved ones, really helped. And I think that, you know, being with my family and having my mom there looking after me, you know, when you're just feeling so sick, all you want is your mom, and my mom was there, which was the best. So all of that really helped. But yeah, I didn't really find any magical tricks. Sorry if you can hear this noise. Nemo is currently eating his antler down there, so okay, I gave him a non-noisy treat to eat. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. If you have any questions, please ask them below in the comments, and I will try and do a Q&A very soon. Maybe I'll put the little question box on Instagram in a few days time, and maybe I'll just do another video just answering a few of your questions. But please do check out the blog post that I wrote, because I went into more details about certain things. And yeah, I'm really excited to be able to share more, and I don't really have a plan about what I want to share and how, but if you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see or hear about, please do let me know. And I would really appreciate it if you could like this video and also subscribe. I'm going to try and do more regular updates now that I'm feeling much better. And, you know, also continue other non-pregnancy related content and do, you know, videos and recipes and, you know, normal vlogs. So yeah, I'm just really excited to be able to finally get my groove back and, you know, diving into some work. I'll be back with more regular updates, and thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you being here, and if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos, just let me know, and I'll see you very soon. Oh, and before I go, I wanted to share my bump and where it's at the minute. It hasn't totally popped, but it's definitely getting bigger, and it's definitely bigger in the evening as well. Like in the morning it's kind of hidden, and then in the evening it goes poof. So here we go. There's not much there, but it's definitely starting to show a little bit down here.